He wasn't supposed to be there. That's what she'd think later, when she tried to make sense of how everything unraveled. But that night, standing in the empty lobby of a luxury building in Gangnam at 2 in the morning, Nia Cross didn't know she was making the worst mistake of her professional life. She just knew the man trying to bypass her desk was dressed too well to be sneaking in. "Sir." Her voice cut clean through the silence. Buildings closed to non-residents after midnight.
He stopped, turned,
Looked at her like she'd said something in a language he hadn't heard in years.
tall,
Sharp-featured. Expensive suit that fit him like a threat. And an expression that suggested he was deciding something about her in real time. "I'm meeting someone," he said. His English was perfect, accentless. "Then they can come down." Nia didn't move from her position. 4 months into this security job, and she'd learned that the polite ones were usually testing you. "I'll need ID and the unit number." Something flickered across his face. Not anger, something more curious than that. "You're new." "Since August." She kept her tone professional, neutral. "ID, please." For a long moment, he didn't move. Just watched her with the kind of attention that made her spine straighten instinctively. Then, instead of arguing or making a scene like most drunk businessmen did, he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "I'll come back during business hours," he said quietly, and turned toward the door. She watched him leave, watched the way the night seemed to absorb him, and felt something she couldn't name settle in her chest. It wasn't until her supervisor arrived for the morning shift that she learned the building's primary owner had tried to enter last night. "Did you stop him?" Minasio asked, already pulling up the security footage.
Yeah.
He didn't have ID. Minasio went very still. "What did he look like?" Nia described him. The blood drained from Minasio's face in real time. "That's Yoon Jae-hin." The name meant nothing to her. That was the problem. He came back 3 nights later. Nia saw him through the glass doors before he entered. Same suit, different tie, same unsettling focus. This time he walked straight to her desk like he'd been thinking about it.
"Good evening," he said.
She kept her face neutral. "Sir, you asked for ID last time." He pulled out a wallet, slid a card across the desk. "Resident access. Penthouse level. Name, Yoon Jae-hin." Nia looked at it, then at him. "Thank you. Go ahead." He didn't move. "You're not going to apologize? For doing my job?" She met his eyes.
No.
Minasio had spent the last 2 days acting like Nia had narrowly avoided execution. Wouldn't explain why, just kept saying be careful and don't make him notice you. But Nia had worked enough late shifts in enough places to know fear when she saw it, and she'd learned a long time ago that apologizing when you hadn't done anything wrong just taught people you were easy to move. Jae-hin's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. He leaned forward slightly, just enough that she caught the scent of his cologne. Clean, expensive, deliberate. "What's your name?" "It's on my badge." "I want to hear you say it." The lobby was empty. The cameras were recording, and Nia had the distinct feeling she was being tested for something she didn't understand. "Nia Cross." He repeated it, slow and careful, like he was learning the shape of it. "American." "Yes." "How did you end up here?" "Applied for a job. Got hired." She kept her tone flat. "Is there something you need, Mr. Yoon?" For a second she thought he might actually answer. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and whatever he saw there changed his face into something harder, colder. "No," he said quietly. "Not tonight." He walked past her toward the elevators. Nia watched the numbers climb 3rd floor, 8th, 15th, and stop at penthouse. Her phone lit up. Text from Minasio. "Did he come in?"
Yes.
He had ID this time. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "Stay away from him." "I'm serious, Nia. Whatever he wants, say no." Nia stared at the message. She'd been in Seoul for 6 months, spoke barely functional Korean, and had exactly one friend who'd helped her get this job. Minasio didn't scare easily.
Who is he?
The response took 2 minutes. Someone you don't want to know. But it was already too late for that. Because the next night, Yoon Jae-hin came back again. And the night after that. Always around 2 a.m., always alone, always stopping at her desk just long enough to create a moment that felt like a question she wasn't being asked. The fourth time, he brought coffee. "You take it black," he said, setting the cup down in front of her. Nia looked at it. Looked at him. "How would you know that? You had one last night. From the convenience store across the street." He tilted his head slightly. "You went on your break at 1:15. Ice slid down her spine. "Are you watching me?"
I'm observant.
"That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He left before she could decide whether to drink the coffee or throw it away. She drank it. It was perfect. That was somehow worse. By the end of the week, Nia started noticing other things. The way Minesio flinched when Jae-hin's name came up. The way the daytime security supervisor never asked about the penthouse level. The way certain men in certain suits moved through the lobby with a kind of careful silence, like they were walking through a church. And the way Yoon Jae-hin kept coming back, night after night, like he was trying to solve a problem only he could see. She still didn't know what he wanted, but she was starting to understand that whatever it wasn't something she'd be able to give without changing everything. The problem with patterns was that they made you predictable. Nia realized this when she found herself checking the time at 1:50 a.m., straightening papers on her desk that didn't need straightening, aware of the glass doors in a way she hadn't been 2 weeks ago. He walked in at 1:58. "You're early," she said before she could stop herself. Jae-hin paused, and something that might have been amusement crossed his face. "Am I?" She didn't answer. He signed in. He'd started doing that, even though they both knew he didn't have to, and slid the clipboard back across the desk. His handwriting was precise, controlled. Quiet night. Every night's quiet here. Nia kept her tone professional. That's kind of the point of luxury real estate. He didn't move toward the elevators. "You don't like it." It wasn't a question. Nia looked up at him, trying to figure out what game this was. "I didn't say that." "You don't have to." He leaned against her desk, casual in a way that felt rehearsed. "You sit here for 8 hours watching empty hallways. No one to talk to. Nothing to do. You're bored."
I'm employed.
Those aren't the same thing. They weren't. But admitting that felt like giving him something she hadn't agreed to trade. "Was there something you needed, Mr. Yoon?" "Stop calling me that. It's your name. It's what people call me when they're afraid of me." His eyes stayed on hers. "You're not afraid. Should I be?" The question sat between them like a hand grenade with a pin half pulled. Jae-hin studied her for a long moment, and Nia had the unsettling sense that he was making a decision that would affect her whether she wanted it to or not. "Yes," he said finally. Quietly. "Probably." Then he walked away. Nia's heart was doing something complicated in her chest. She waited until the elevator doors closed before she let herself breathe properly. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You should be more careful." She stared at the message. Typed back. "Who is this?" No response. She deleted it and tried to focus on her work, but the lobby suddenly felt less empty than it had before. Like there were eyes in places she couldn't see. At 3 a.m., a man she'd never seen before came through the doors. Well-dressed, controlled movements, the kind of face that gave nothing away. He didn't approach her desk, just walked straight to the elevators like he owned them. "Excuse me," Nia called out. "I need to see your..." He turned and looked at her with an expression so cold it stopped her mid-sentence. Then he pressed the elevator button and disappeared upward without a word. Nia's hands were shaking. She pulled up the access log, tried to match his face against resident photos, found nothing. The elevator had stopped at the penthouse level.
She should call someone.
Her supervisor. Building management.
Someone.
Instead, she sat there in the fluorescent silence and wondered what exactly Minesio had been trying to warn her about. Jaehyun came back down 40 minutes later. Alone. There was something different about him now. A tightness in his jaw, a careful control in the way he moved. When he reached her desk, he stopped. Did anyone else come through tonight? Nia's throat felt dry. Should I lie?
No.
He said it flatly, like it was an order. Never lie to me. Then yes. About half an hour ago. Did he speak to you?
No.
Something in Jaehyun's shoulders relaxed fractionally. Good. Who was he? No one you need to worry about. But the way he said it made her worry more, not less. He glanced at the elevators, then back at her. Your shift ends at 6. Yes. Someone will walk you to the subway. I don't need. It wasn't a question, Nia. The use of her first name startled her more than the command. He'd never used it before, had always kept that careful distance of formality. Now it sat in the air between them, like a claim. Why? She asked. Because I said so. That's not a reason. His jaw tightened. For a second she thought he might actually tell her the truth. Then his phone buzzed again, and whatever moment they'd been in shattered. 6 a.m., he repeated. Don't leave before then. He was gone before she could argue. When her shift ended, there was a man waiting by the doors. Young, broad-shouldered, with the same careful blankness she'd seen in the late-night visitor. He didn't introduce himself. Just walked 3 steps behind her all the way to the subway entrance and disappeared the moment she went through the turnstile. Nia rode the train home and tried to convince herself this was normal. That wealthy residents looked out for their building staff all the time. That Minasio was overreacting. But when she got back to her apartment, there was an envelope under her door. No name. No return address. Just a single sentence in precise handwriting. Stop asking questions. Nia locked her door, checked the windows, and didn't sleep until the sun came up. She'd worked 4 months in this building without incident. 2 weeks of Yoon Jae-hyun's attention, and suddenly she was receiving threats from people she couldn't see. The math wasn't complicated. Whatever he wanted from her, the cost was getting higher. Nia called in sick for the first time in her life. Minasio answered on the first ring. Are you okay?
I've fine.
Just need a night off. Nia kept her voice steady, normal. The envelope was still sitting on her kitchen counter where she'd left it, like evidence of something she didn't want to name.
Nia.
Minasio's voice dropped. Did something happen?
No.
I need a break. Silence on the other end.
Then, okay.
I'll cover your shift. But after this, we need to talk.
About what?
You know about what. Minasio hung up before Nia could lie again. She spent the day applying for other jobs. Hotel security. Office buildings. Anything that would get her out of that lobby, away from whatever she'd accidentally walked into. But Seoul was expensive and her Korean was still broken, and by evening she'd received exactly 0 responses. Her phone buzzed at 8 p.m. Unknown number again. Why weren't you at work? She stared at it. Deleted it. It buzzed again immediately. Answer me. Her hands were shaking. She typed. Leave me alone. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared.
Her phone rang.
She almost didn't pick up. But something about the persistence felt less like threat and more like, hello. Are you hurt? Jaehyun's voice was quiet, controlled, but there was something sharp underneath it. How did you get this number? Are you hurt? He repeated.
No. I'm fine.
She stopped.
Took a breath.
I needed a night off. Because of the note. Ice in her stomach. How do you know about that? Because I had someone watching your building. No apology in his tone. Just fact. Who left it? I don't know. I thought maybe you.
No.
The word came out hard. I would never threaten you. Then who did? Silence. Long enough that she thought he might have hung up. Then. Someone who doesn't understand the situation. What situation? What is happening? Stay inside tonight, he said instead of answering. Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone. You can't just. I'll come by tomorrow. We'll talk then. He paused. I'm sorry you're afraid. He hung up before she could tell him she wasn't afraid. She was angry. That there was a difference. That she didn't need his protection or his apologies. She needed him to leave her alone so her life could go back to being quiet and hers. But that would have been a lie, and he told her never to lie to him. She ordered delivery. Double-checked the locks. Tried to watch television and couldn't focus. At midnight, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her door. Slow, deliberate, stopping right outside. Nia held her breath. The footsteps moved on.
She didn't sleep.
At 6 a.m., she gave up and decided to go into work anyway. The apartment felt too small, too exposed. At least the building had cameras. Security. Other people. She texted Minesio. Coming in after all.
Sorry.
No response. The subway was packed with early commuters. Nia kept her head down, watched reflections in the window, tried to see if anyone was following her. Everyone looked suspicious. No one looked suspicious. She was losing her mind. The building lobby was empty when she arrived, lights bright and clean and normal. Nia exhaled, signed in, sat down at her desk, and tried to pretend the last 24 hours hadn't happened. At 7 a.m., Minesio came through the doors looking like she hadn't slept either. You shouldn't be here, she said. I work here. Nia. Minesio glanced at the elevators, then leaned in close. Mr. Yoon asked about you yesterday. Wanted to know where you lived. Your schedule. Everything. I know. He called me. Minesio's face went pale. He has your number? Apparently, he has everything. Then you understand. Minesio gripped her arm. You need to quit.
Today.
Right now. I can't afford to quit. You can't afford not to. Her voice cracked. My cousin worked for his family's company. She saw something she shouldn't have. They paid her to leave the country. She took the money, and she's never coming back. Nia's mouth went dry. What did she see? Minesio shook her head. It doesn't matter. What matters is. The elevator chimed. They both turned. Jaehyun stepped out, and he wasn't alone. 3 men in dark suits flanked him, and there was something in their movements that made Nia's training kick in. The way they scanned the lobby, the way their jackets hung just slightly wrong, the way they positioned themselves between Jaehyun and the doors. He saw her immediately. His expression shifted. Relief, then something harder when he noticed Minesio. Leave, he said quietly. Minesio flinched. Looked at Nia. Mouthed I'm sorry and walked out. Just like that, Nia was alone with 4 men, who moved like violence was a language they all spoke fluently. Jaehyun crossed the lobby toward her. You were supposed to stay home. I work here. Not today. He glanced at the elevators. There's a meeting upstairs. It's going to take a few hours. I need you to leave. This is my shift.
Nia.
Her name again, but different now. Urgent. Please. She'd never heard him say please before. That was what made her stand up.
Fine.
I'll go. Relief flickered across his face. He nodded to one of the men. Take her to. The elevator chimed again. They all turned. The doors opened, and 2 men stumbled out. One supporting the other, whose white shirt was soaked through with red. Blood dripped onto the marble floor in thick, dark drops. Nia stopped breathing. Jaehyun moved fast, positioning himself between her and them, his voice sharp and low in Korean. The injured man was saying something urgent and panicked. The others were responding, pulling him toward the service exit. But not before the injured man looked directly at Nia. Not before she saw his face clearly enough to identify him later. Not before everything changed. Jaehyun turned back to her, and his expression was something she'd never seen before. Not controlled, not curious, not amused. Afraid. Come with me, he said. Right now. And Nia realized with perfect, terrible clarity that she had just become a problem that men like Yoon Jaehyun knew exactly how to solve. The service elevator smelled like cleaning chemicals and copper. Nia stood pressed against the back wall, watching Jaehyun's reflection in the steel doors. He was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean in a tone that made her think of a general directing troops. The numbers climbed: 3rd floor, 5th, 8th, and her mind kept replaying what she'd just seen. Blood on marble. A man's face, gray with pain. The kind of silence that came after violence. The elevator stopped at the 15th floor. Jaehyun ended his call. This way. Where are we going? He didn't answer. Just walked down a hallway she'd never seen before, past doors that all looked the same, until he stopped at 1504 and unlocked it. The apartment was empty. Not just unoccupied, completely bare. No furniture, no curtains, just expensive flooring and floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the city. Stay here, Jaehyun said. For how long? Until I come back. That's not an answer. Her voice was steadier than she felt. What happened down there? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw him making calculations behind his eyes. An accident. That wasn't an accident. It was to you. He moved toward the door. Don't leave. Don't call anyone. Don't go near the windows. You can't just lock me in here. I'm not locking you in. I'm keeping you alive. He paused in the doorway. There's a difference.
The door closed.
She heard the lock click. Nia stood in the empty apartment and tried to organize her thoughts into something coherent. She'd seen an injured man. That was all. Someone hurt in an accident, being taken to a hospital. Normal. Explainable. Except nothing about the way they'd moved had been normal. Except Jaehyun's face, when he'd seen her watching. Except she was now locked in an empty apartment on someone's orders, and she'd followed those orders without even thinking. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out so fast, she nearly dropped it. Minnesio. Did you leave?
Nyon typed, I'm okay.
Where are you? She looked around the empty room. At the locked door. At the windows she'd been told not to approach. I don't know. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared.
Her phone rang.
Don't call me, Nia said immediately. I can't. Where are you? Minnesio's voice was barely above a whisper. What did he do? Nothing. He just moved me. To another floor. Oh, God. Minnesio made a sound like she was trying not to cry. Nia, listen to me. Whatever he tells you, whatever he promises, you cannot trust him. His family, they're not businessmen. There. The call cut off. Nia stared at her phone. Tried to call back. Straight to voicemail. She texted, Minnesio? No response. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. She walked to the window, carefully, remembering his warning, and looked down at the street 15 floors below. Traffic. Pedestrians. Normal morning life happening in a world that felt very far away from where she was standing. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. She looked scared. She hated that. The door unlocked 3 hours later. Jaehyun came in carrying a bag from a convenience store and a bottled water. He set them on the floor near her feet. Eat something. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. He leaned against the wall, and she noticed for the first time that there was blood on his cuff, just a small spot, almost invisible against the dark fabric. He saw her looking. It's not mine. Whose is it? Someone who made a mistake. What kind of mistake? The permanent kind. He said it without inflection, like he was commenting on the weather. You saw him. The man in the lobby. Yes. Can you identify him? Nia's throat went dry. Why? Because if you can, you're a witness. And witnesses are complicated. The word hung in the air between them, like a blade. She thought about Minnesio's cousin, about leaving the country, about all the ways complicated problems got solved by people who moved like Jaehyun's men moved. I didn't see anything, she heard herself say. Don't lie to me. I'm not. It happened so fast, and I wasn't paying attention. Jaehyun studied her face for a long moment. Then he pushed off the wall and crossed the space between them in 3 strides. He was close enough now that she could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, could smell the coffee on his breath. "You're afraid of me now," he said quietly. "Should I be? I asked you that before. You didn't answer. You didn't answer either." Something that might have been respect flickered across his face.
No.
"I didn't. Are you going to hurt me?
No.
Are you going to let someone else hurt me?"
His jaw tightened. No.
"Then what happens now?" He stepped back, ran a hand through his hair. The first gesture she'd seen from him that looked anything like uncertainty. "Now you stay here until I can move you somewhere safer. This is one of the most secure buildings in Seoul."
It was.
He glanced at the door. "It's not anymore. Someone knew about this morning's meeting. Someone talked. And until I know who, everyone is a potential problem. Including me, especially you." But the way he said it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded almost like regret. "You weren't supposed to be there. You should have stayed home like I told you. Maybe if you'd explained why." "I couldn't." "Why not?" "Because the less you know, the safer you are." Nia laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "I'm locked in an empty apartment. I've been threatened. I can't reach my only friend. How exactly is this safer?" Jaehyun moved to the window, looked out at the city below. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, harder. 3 years ago, someone saw something they shouldn't have. A woman. She worked in accounting. Smart. Careful. She thought she could just forget what she'd seen. Go back to normal. He stopped. "What happened to her?" Nia asked, even though part of her didn't want to know. "She tried to go to the police." He turned back to face her. "They found her in the Han River 2 days later." The apartment was very quiet. "I'm not going to let that happen to you," Jaehyun said. "But you need to trust me. I don't even know you." "Yes, you do." He moved toward the door. "You've known exactly what I am since the first night you stopped me in that lobby. You just didn't want to see it." He left before she could argue. The lock clicked again, and Nia slid down the wall until she was sitting on the expensive floor of an empty apartment, holding a phone that might as well have been broken. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, everything had stopped. The apartment had no clock, so Nia measured time in sunlight. Morning became afternoon, became evening. The shadows stretched across the empty floor, like hands reaching toward her. She'd eaten half the kimbap from the convenience store bag, more because she was bored than hungry. Her phone battery was at 40%. Still no response from Minesio. She tried the door twice. Locked both times. The windows didn't open. At some point, she'd stopped feeling afraid and started feeling angry. Not the hot, reactive kind, the cold, calculating kind that came from having too much time to think. About how she'd let herself be moved like a chess piece. About how easily she'd disappeared from her own life. About how no one even knew where she was. When the lock clicked again, she was ready. Jaehyun came in carrying actual food this time, containers from a restaurant, still warm. He stopped when he saw her standing in the center of the room, arms crossed. "You need to eat properly," he said. "I need to leave." "Not yet." "When?" He set the food down. "When it's safe." "You keep saying that. What does it actually mean?" "It means that this morning, the man you saw died in surgery. And the man who put him there is asking questions about witnesses." Nia's chest tightened. "Who is he?" "Someone from a different organization. Someone who doesn't follow the same rules we do." Jaehyun's voice was flat, matter of fact. "He likes making examples out of people." "And you think he knows about me?" "I'm making sure he doesn't. By keeping me locked up? By keeping you breathing." His eyes met hers. "There's a difference." "Stop saying that." Her voice rose despite her best efforts. "Stop acting like you're doing me a favor. You put me here. Your world, your violence, You're right." It stopped her cold. Jaehyun moved to the window, stared out at the darkening city. "This is my fault. I came to your desk every night knowing exactly what it would look like. Knowing people were watching. I made you visible. Why? The question came out quieter than she intended. Why did you keep coming back? He was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, less controlled, more raw. Because you looked at me like I was normal. Nia blinked. What? Everyone who knows my name is afraid of me. Or wants something from me. Or both. He turned to face her. But you just saw a man in a suit breaking the rules. You treated me like I was ordinary. You're not ordinary.
No.
Something that might have been sadness crossed his face. I'm not. The food container sat between them, going cold. Outside, the city lit up. Thousands of windows, thousands of lives happening simultaneously, all of them free to move. I had a life, Nia said quietly. Before this. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And now I'm here, and I don't know if I can ever go back to it. You can't. The honesty of it hit her like a fist. So, what am I supposed to do? Stay alive, Jihin said. Let me handle the rest. And then what? I just exist in this apartment forever?
No.
I'm moving you tomorrow night. Somewhere outside the city. Somewhere he won't think to look. Alone.
He hesitated.
I'll come when I can. When you can. Nia laughed, sharp and bitter. So, I'm just supposed to wait around for you to decide when it's convenient to.
Her phone rang.
They both froze. She pulled it out. Unknown number. Her hands were shaking. Don't answer it, Jihin said immediately. What if it's Mafia? It's not. You don't know that.
Nia. She
answered. Hello. Silence on the other end. Then breathing. Slow, deliberate. Wrong number, she said and hung up. Jihin crossed the space between them in 2 strides, took the phone from her hand, and threw it against the wall. It shattered into pieces. What the hell? He knows. Jihin's voice was deadly quiet. He knows, and he just confirmed you're alive. Who knows? What are you? The window exploded. Glass everywhere, sharp rain falling in slow motion. Jihin hit her from the side, drove her to the floor, covered her body with his. She heard shouting from somewhere. Another crack of sound. The wall above them disintegrated into dust and chunks of drywall. Someone was shooting at them. Don't move, Jihin said against her ear. His weight was solid, heavy, his arms locked around her like a cage. Don't move, don't scream, don't breathe. But she was breathing. Fast, panicked breaths that didn't bring enough oxygen. Her ears were ringing. She could feel his heartbeat against her spine, rapid but steady. Could feel broken glass cutting into her palms where she'd braced against the floor. Voices in the hallway. Footsteps running. The door burst open and men flooded in. Jihin's men. She recognized them from the lobby. Rapid Korean, urgent and controlled. Someone pulled Jihin to his feet. He pulled her with him. Blood on his face. A cut above his eyebrow, already swelling. Can you walk? He asked. She nodded because words wouldn't come. They moved fast, out the door, down the service stairs, his hand locked around her wrist like a handcuff. 3 floors down, 5, 8. Her legs were shaking. Someone ahead of them was speaking into a radio. Behind them, she heard more footsteps. Heavy, running, closing the distance. Faster, Jihin said. They burst through a door into an underground parking garage. A black sedan was already running, door open. Jihin pushed her into the back seat, followed her in. The car was moving before the door closed. Nia pressed herself against the seat, trying to make herself smaller, trying to understand what had just happened. The driver said something in Korean. Jihin responded, his voice hard. She looked at him. Really looked at him. Blood running down the side of his face. Suit torn at the shoulder. Glass glittering in his hair. You covered me, she heard herself say. He met her eyes. Yes. You could have been killed. Yes. Why? Because you're here because of me. He wiped blood from his eyebrow, looked at it almost absently. And I protect what's mine. I'm not. You are. He said it with absolute certainty. The moment I decided you were worth the risk, you became mine. And what's mine doesn't get touched. The car took a corner hard. Nia grabbed the door handle, her heart still racing, her mind still trying to catch up with her body. Where are we going? Somewhere he won't find you. How do you know he won't? Because I'm going to kill him first. He said it the same way someone might say, I'm going to get coffee.
Flat. Certain.
Already decided. Nia stared at him in the dim light of the car, at this man who'd just used his body as a shield for hers, who'd thrown away her phone and probably saved her life, who spoke about murder like it was an appointment on his calendar. I want to go home, she whispered. You don't have one anymore. His hand found hers in the darkness, held it tight. But I'm going to give you a new one. And despite everything, the violence, the fear, the way her life had been ripped apart in less than 12 hours, part of her believed him. That was the most terrifying thing of all. The safe house was 2 hours outside Seoul, hidden at the end of a gravel road that wound through rice fields and darkness. It wasn't a house, it was a compound. High walls, security cameras, men posted at the gate who nodded to Jae-hyun like he was expected. Inside, the main building was modern, anonymous. The kind of place designed to be forgotten. Nia's legs barely held her as she got out of the car. Adrenaline crash, she recognized distantly. She'd seen it before, working security. The way your body just stopped cooperating once the danger passed. Jae-hyun's hand was on her elbow, steadying her. This way. He led her through a side entrance, up a flight of stairs, into a bedroom that looked like it belonged in a boutique hotel. Clean lines, expensive bedding, windows with blinds already drawn. Bathrooms through there, he said. There are clothes in the closet. Everything you need. Nia sat on the edge of the bed because standing seemed like too much work. How long? I don't know. Days? Weeks? As long as it takes. She looked up at him. The cut above his eyebrow had stopped bleeding, but his face was still streaked with dried blood. His suit was ruined. He looked exhausted. You should clean that, she said. I will. But he didn't move. Just stood there watching her like he was trying to memorize something. What? She asked. I'm trying to decide if you're going to run. Where would I go? I don't know. But people do stupid things when they're scared. I'm not scared. It was a lie, and they both knew it. I'm just tired. Something in his expression softened. Then sleep. I'll be downstairs if you need anything. Are you leaving? Not tonight, but eventually. He was quiet for a moment. I have to finish this. And I can't do that from here. Which meant he'd go back to the city. Back to whatever war was happening. Back to the man who'd sent bullets through a window to kill her. What if, she stopped. Started again. What if he finds me here? He won't. You can't know that. Yes, I can. Jae-hyun moved closer, crouched down so they were eye level. Because everyone who knows about this place would die before they told him. And because I'm going to end this before he gets another chance. By killing him. Yes. Just like that. Just like that. Nia studied his face, looking for hesitation, for doubt, for anything that suggested he understood how insane this was. She found nothing but certainty. You've done this before, she said quietly. Yes. How many times? Enough that I stopped counting. He stood, moved toward the door. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning. Jae-hyun.
He stopped. Turned.
It was the first time she'd used his name.
Thank you, she said.
For the window. For covering me. Something complicated crossed his face. Don't thank me for cleaning up my own mess. He left before she could respond. Nia sat in the silence of the expensive room and tried to process the last 18 hours. This morning she'd been in her apartment, applying for jobs, trying to build a normal life. Now she was in a safe house owned by the Korean Mafia, being protected by a man who killed people like it was a job requirement. She should be horrified. Should be planning escape routes, calling embassies, doing something other than sitting here. Instead, she stood up and walked to the bathroom. The shower was large, modern, with water pressure that felt like luxury. She stood under the spray until it ran cold, washing away blood and glass and fear. When she came out, wrapped in a towel that cost more than her monthly rent, she found clothes laid out on the bed. Not the clothes from the closet, new ones. Women's clothes in exactly her size. Soft cotton shirt, comfortable pants, underwear still in packaging. He'd planned this. Or someone had on his orders. She'd been classified as something worth preparing for. Nia dressed, climbed into the bed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep seemed impossible. But exhaustion had its own agenda, and at some point the ceiling faded into darkness. She woke to sunlight pressing against the blinds and the smell of coffee. When she came downstairs, Jae-hyun was in the kitchen, speaking rapid Korean into his phone. He'd showered, changed into clean clothes, black shirt, dark pants, still expensive, but less formal. The cut above his eyebrow was bruised now, purple spreading toward his temple. He saw her and ended the call. Coffee, please. He poured her a cup, black, no sugar, perfect, and slid it across the counter. They stood there in the bright kitchen, drinking coffee like this was normal. Like last night hadn't happened. I have to go back to the city, he said finally. I know. I'll leave security here. For men, rotating shifts. They'll stay outside unless you need something. When will you be back? 3 days. Maybe 4. And if it takes longer? His jaw tightened. It won't. Nia set down her cup. What if something happens to you? Then someone will come get you. Take you somewhere safer. That's not what I meant. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes that made her chest feel tight. I'm not going to die, Nia. Not before I finish this. You can't promise that. No, he agreed. But I can promise that if I do, you'll be taken care of. Money, papers, safe passage anywhere you want to go. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? The question hung between them, too big for the moment. Nia didn't have an answer, or she had too many, and none of them made sense. I want to stop feeling like a passenger in my own life, she said finally. Something like understanding crossed his face. He moved around the counter, stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, the same one from that first night, weeks ago, when this had all started. I know what I took from you, he said quietly. Your safety, your routine, your choices. And I know I can't give any of it back. Then why are you doing this? Because the alternative is worse. His hand came up, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle it made something crack in her chest. And, because somewhere between your desk and this moment, you stopped being a problem I needed to solve and became someone I can't afford to lose. Nia's breath caught. That's not. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee black. I know you don't apologize when you're right. I know you look at me like I'm a person instead of a position. His thumb traced her jawline. I know that when you're scared, you get angry instead of small. And I know that I would burn down everything I've built before I let anyone hurt you. That's insane. Yes. He said it like an agreement, like a confession. It is. And then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, demanding, the kind of kiss that came from someone who knew this might be the last chance. Nia's mind went blank. Just sensation, just the taste of coffee and the solid warmth of him, just the way his hand tangled in her hair like he was afraid she'd disappear. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For all of it. He stepped away, picked up his phone from the counter. I need to go. Jae-hyun. 3 days. He was already moving toward the door. Stay here. Stay safe. Let me finish this. And then he was gone, and Nia was standing in a kitchen that wasn't hers, in a house that wasn't hers, in a life that had been completely rewritten in the span of 2 weeks. She touched her lips. They still felt warm. Outside, she heard a car engine start, then fade into the distance. The silence that followed was absolute. I'm building this channel quietly. If this story held you, subscribing is how you tell me to keep going.